You have to bear with me. I hate this microphone. It just sucks. I'm just like, I'm gonna go through this right here. Let's see. If you get nothing out of my presentation, this is it. This is all I want you to take away with it. It says, do what gives you the best stories. You have the hardest decisions in your life to make. Do this, and you will never, never, never be disappointed. I'm a creative director. That means I work with Fortune 500 companies, and I write strategies and I make media. My family's from Wieden Kennedy, way up north, little tiny village, about 300 people. I live in the South Valley. I live right down the street. I'm Hickory, Apache, Indian, and Mexican, and proud of it. As a baby, I was left at an orphanage, abandoned, and basically I was adopted by a family, and I was raised in a pretty violent home. Again, when you're raised in a violent home, you're not sure if it's a violent home. You go to school, and you kind of think that everybody gets the shit beat out of them. So you have to reflect back on it. Now that I know I was raised in a violent home. I saw my first gunfight when I was 6 years old. My dad had been beat up by these two guys in this bar that he was running, and he came back up to the camper trailer that we were living in, and he threw me and my brother off of the bed that we were on. We were sleeping on a piece of styrofoam, and he grabbed a .357, and before he could even get out of the trailer, we were in this little trailer, he started to fire the gun at this truck that was driving away of this guy that had beat him up. The concussion in that small trailer, I still can hear the ringing in my voice, or in my ears. I have a sister who's been in and out of jail and prison and is a heroin addict. And I have another brother stepbrother, who was institutionalized because he tried to kill my dad, my adopted dad, and he tried to kill some other people. I had a really hard time in school. The system's not built for me, and I just didn't do well in school. I don't think I didn't think I passed any grades. It was mostly D's and F's all through school. After high school, I was a janitor, and I was a janitor in Wyoming, and my mom and my adopted mom and my auntie actually got me to go to school, go to an art school. And basically what I'm going to show you is how I changed the system. Okay, I went to school and I followed all their rules and I did exactly what they said, and I did really good in school. It was the worst trade school that you can imagine. It was the cheapest because we were in Wyoming and couldn't afford anything. I got my portfolio together, I sent it to this company, this is Wieden Kennedy, that does all the Nike ads because I wanted to work on Nike. And this is what they sent me back. And it says, I showed your samples to a designer, and we feel there's nothing original or different about your work. We look for stuff that's smart and new. Keep working on it and learn something about type. And then she signed it with a Sharpie. I mean, she couldn't find a pen. Sharpie is like the worst thing. I mean, she couldn't find a pen. So I did that 4 times. I went back and I did it again and again and again. And finally on the 4th time, I think they got tired of me, so they hired me. So when they hired me, I put this letter up and I put my business card underneath it. At that point, I was sitting at my table, and this man came into my cubicle, and he had welding gloves on, and he had this beard, and he looked like a homeless guy. And he looked at the letter, and he chuckled, and he walked over, and he kissed me on top of my head. I had this bald head, and I was freaked out, so I went and got my manager. I said, "Hey, this homeless guy just kissed me on top of my head." And she's like, "That's David Kennedy. That's the guy who wrote Just Do It. That's the guy who's done every Nike ad and has changed advertising the way it is in the entire world." I was like, wow, okay, that's cool. He kissed me on top of my head. That's David Kennedy right there in the middle. He's now a really good friend of mine, and he calls me every once in a while to see how I'm doing. The resume. Okay, so you in the industry that I work in, you have to send these out. Most people just send out a plain old resume. They go to Kinko's, they write on, the stuff they think they should write on. And I knew that I wasn't going to get the job that I wanted to get. So basically, I had worked at 7-Eleven, and so I saved my 7-Eleven resume. They're silly So what I did is I tried to figure out if I sent this in, that's one thing, they would look at it and say, oh, this is interesting, so that I have a better chance of getting the job. But then I looked at the stupid things that they write on here, and I said, you know what? The best way for me to get their attention is to really fill this out honestly. So it says, have you ever been convicted of a criminal offense in the past 7 years? And so I marked yes, because I was like, well, yes, they're at least going to read that part of it. And then it says, give details. So I wrote, they said it was armed robbery, but that's bullshit. I was asking the clerk for some change, and the gun dropped out of my shirt. I guarantee you, every time I send this in, they call me back. The people who fill out the resumes, and they do the one that Kinko's, and you put it on some fancy paper, and then they send it to them. Oh, believe me, they don't care that you bicycle. They don't care that you lift weights. They don't care that you have a horse or a cat or whatever. They throw that shit in the garbage. I mean, I know because I work with them. I see them. They toss them in. So again, I filled it out the way I filled it out the way I thought I should. I put on there, I spent a week with my stepdad in Wyoming. He taught me how to weld. I speak Mescalero, Apache, and some Spanish, mostly some prison slang terms. I'm a guide outfitter to Wyoming for extra money, and sometimes I track down poachers for the game and fish. Now, this is the genius part of it. You have all these amazing stories, and you hide them. You hide them. I'm not sure why we do this or why we're trained to do this. Again, that's the system. The system doesn't work for some people. It doesn't work for me. That's half of that stuff is true. I really did. I tracked down poachers when I was in high school. I chose to leave school because I didn't like the way I was treated. I got in trouble for skipping school and drinking. The teachers were hassling me all the time for drawing in class, and I really wanted to be a bull rider, and school left no time for that. And all of that is absolutely true. I was a terrible bull rider because I was really tall, and bull riders are not supposed to be tall. With that resume, I have worked for all these companies. And the only reason that they were able to do that, again, is because I was honest. I didn't follow their lies. I'm now going to show you, I'm going to take you through some work. When I was in high school, I read 2 books, Pet Sematary and Shame. Okay, terrible. I was 30 years old, and my wife, who was a girlfriend at the time, took me to see Macbeth. And I was like, holy shit! Does anybody else know about this guy? Like, this is incredible. Like Shakespeare, I was crying. I wanted to go to the next play, and I wanted to go to the next play, and I wanted to read his poetry. And I was like, you know, nobody told me about this. I didn't even know who Shakespeare was. You know, I had no idea. I vowed at that time, being so embarrassed about not knowing it, that I went back to Wyoming and I said, you know what? I have a bunch of redneck cousins, and I'm going to make them read because they would love Macbeth. And so I said, now how am I going to do that? That's impossible. Like, they're not going to go to the library. They're not going to do that. I went back to Wyoming. I went and worked with the libraries. I made this sticker. Again, for Nike, I've been working for Spike Lee. I've been working on, the last budget I had before I did this was $4 million. I spent $10,000 on catering. I went to them and I said, how much money you got? And they said, $80. I was like, okay, $80. Okay, so I made this sticker. With that sticker, I got 80 out of an entire state of 465,000 people. I got 80,000 people to get a library card. I got 18,000 blogs and still talking about it right now. And I got over 1 million impressions online with one sticker. And all I did was, again, I took her boob off and I put a book in her hand. And it's all over Wyoming right now. Again, you don't have to be a genius. Another thing that, I always say is like, look, do what you want to do. If you have a dream, my dream was to ride in a police helicopter. And not because I wanted to be evacuated or rescued or anything like that. Like, I wanted to ride in a police helicopter next to a police pilot. That's me right there. That guy sitting on the left-hand side, that's me flying in that helicopter. I was able to, again, wheel and deal and do the things that we do in the South Valley and hustle my way into the New Mexico, state police, and I did some TV commercials and I got to ride. And the most amazing thing is that man standing back there, I became really good friends with that man, and he was killed about 3 years ago helping those people in Taos. And I thought for the little bit of the time that I was on this earth, I got to meet this amazing person. This is my daughter. For her birthday, she came to me and said, Dad, she reads Harry Potter and all this other stuff, and she's like, Dad, I want a catapult. And I was like, you can't have a catapult for your birthday. And then I was like, why can't you have a catapult for her birthday? She said, have a catapult for her birthday. I love catapults, right? I mean, I should be able to do this. This is what I do for a living. So I built a catapult. I went and I worked with the state of New Mexico, and I sold them this idea.
Come on over and learn about seatbelt safety in our seatbelt safety simulator.
I'll check it out.
Just have a seat in the advanced simulator and experience what it's like to get catapulted out of a car as a result of not wearing a seatbelt.
Okay. Now what?
Get the point? How about 2 points put on your license when caught not wearing a seatbelt?
Avoid getting catapulted, as well as 2 points put on your license. Click it or ticket.
You can do whatever you want to do. I know people keep telling you that, but it's true. I mean, look at these amazing students that were out here talking today. If I was that brave, oh my God, I'd be president right now. Eric Estrada. When I was a kid, Eric Estrada was the coolest person in the world. He had a motorcycle. He was Chicano. He looked like my uncles. This man. Again, he was doing things at a time when nobody did the things that he was doing. I was amazing. And the most amazing part of Eric Estrada when you were a kid is that he had an action figure. I mean, come on. When you're a kid and you have somebody with action figure. So my whole life, I said, I'm going to work with Eric Estrada. And again, when you learn about these things. Everybody and everything that you ever do and you want to do, we heard it all today. The first thing you hear out of everybody's mouth is no. No, Eric Estrada is not going to come to New Mexico. And Eric Estrada is not going to work with the DOT. And Eric Estrada is not going to work with you. He's famous. You just see him. In Mexico, he's on some soap opera. He's cool. I called up Eric Estrada. He's like, absolutely yes. I'll come out there. He came out there. I created a whole bunch of stuff with him. We did an air freshener for your car. Again, he loves like being anti-drunk driving, and that's what I was working on. That's actually my daughter right there. I got to put my daughter with Eric Estrada. I'm like, this is Eric Estrada, and she's like, I don't know who Eric Estrada is.
Lonnie Anderson lives here. The other guys are out of LA with me. Lonnie Anderson knows everything there is to know about New Mexico. He's a gentleman that pointing that camera at me with a beard.
He had a beard at the time.
You know, like he has a meth lab.
He just told everybody that I had a meth lab on national TV. I'm going to show you a couple TV commercials that I did. Again, these commercials that I do, that's me. That little boy is me. Everything I do with all my heart, and it's extremely hard. Everything that I've ever done, this commercial was a nightmare. It snowed on us, it was snowing, this was shot at night. This is like 10 minutes before it snowed. The wagon train blew over. That little kid was me. Those buffalo left. If a buffalo could run, they could go 10 miles in one night. My river was frozen over, and we had to like throw rocks on it to break it up. Again, everything I do with all my heart.
What's going on? Who are you guys?
Well, sir, I'm going to pick you up at the DWI checkpoint for drunk driving.
That's when I have to come down to get you out of jail.
Well, temporarily. I'm Judge Torres.
They call him the Hammer. Hey, pop the presses, champ.
I'm real proud of you, honey.
Way to make them happy back home.
Try to sell that to the New Mexico Department of Transportation.
Who's that?
That's your new buddy in jail.
Now, I'm showing you this commercial because this is how hard it is. Remember how I told you everybody says no? Absolutely, everybody said no, that commercial will not be made. But that's not the hard part. This is the hard part.
What's going on? Who are you guys?
Well, sir, I'm going to pick you up at the DWI checkpoint for drunk driving.
And that's when I have to come down to get you out of jail.
Well, temporarily. You see, I am Judge Tiger. You see, I am Judge Face Off. Mierda!
And that's when I have to come get you out of jail.
What the hell do I say?
He has one line. One line, 2 words.
God almighty! Taurus! Taurus! Where are you? Well, I'm Judge Towser. Bucker. Taurus!
I'm sorry, I'm going nuts.
It is 3 o'clock in the morning.
I'm sorry, Chris, I'm going nuts here. Yeah, can we write it in a card? You have a pencil? I'm Judge Torres. Nicky!
You know, again, it's the hardest thing you're ever gonna do is your life. I mean, they should tell you that in high school, or they should tell you that in grade school. You know what is gonna be so hard? This, your life, math, algebra, physics, calculus. You know, none of that is even a blink compared to your life of how freaking hard this is gonna be. How much you're gonna have to study, how much you're gonna have to do. This is it. I remember I said the first thing to remember. This is the second thing. If you're gonna walk away, remember this: be as creative in your personal life as you are in your work, or whatever you're gonna do. Because you know what, you're not gonna be able to go to work and then turn it on and be this creative, mathematical, scientific genius, and then go home and you're just sitting in front of the TV watching TV. You know, your family is depending that you be as creative as you are at home as you are when you're there. This is Valentine's Day. My friends, who are the most creative people in the entire world, they make commercials that make you laugh. They've done every Nike, Coca-Cola, Microsoft commercial that you can imagine. Okay, on Valentine's Day, they go that night or that morning to the Walgreens and they buy some shitty flowers, or they tell their wife or this person they love that they're going to take them to a crappy dinner on the worst night when everybody's pissed off and doesn't want to be there. Okay, when that happened, when my wife came home on Valentine's night, she drove into the driveway, and this is in the South Valley, in my house. In the front yard, I had assembled a carousel. And I was just slowly turning with that really creepy music. But again, they say, oh, well, yeah, you could spend a lot of money. That didn't cost me any money at all. That cost me zero. I went up into the Heights. I found the guy who had the carousel, and I said, hey, I do all these Valentine things, and I want to give my wife a carousel for Valentine's Day. You have a carousel? What do you think about coming down and setting it up in the valley for my wife? And he said, absolutely not. You're crazy. Go away. It's a $100,000 carousel. It takes 4 guys to set it up. It takes 4 hours to set up. No way, no way. His wife was standing right next to him, and she said, absolutely, with all my heart, yes. And he's like, what? And she's like, you gave that carousel to me. That lady not only came down and set up that carousel for my wife, but on the hood of her car, right there in the valley, she made us 2 really, really amazing corsages, like old school corsages. And she pinned them on us, and she just smiled, and she said, Happy Valentine's Day. I do all these things for my wife because I love her. This one I went all over Albuquerque and I put a piece of candy where our first apartment that we lived in, where we had our first kiss, where she worked and I would come and pick her up from Maxwell, where her dad plays with our kids before he died. I mean, I put all these little pieces of candy all over Albuquerque. I did a film of her. I'm a terrible filmmaker, but I made a film of her, and I filmed all her friends, and I filmed her dad right before he passed away to tell her life story. And I went to the Guild, and I said, hey, I want to sing, and he was like, absolutely. And he opened up the concession stand and gave us free popcorn. I turned my little house, we have a tiny little house down in the valley, I made a 16th century throne in the middle of it. Everything was purchased from secondhand shops, and it was much less than dinner and flowers. Again, gold coins. I filled the gold coins. I had this lady in Utah make me these really cool jewels for like $12. My wife is a recycled nut, so I found all these cardboard boxes and I found all this stuff and I built a 25-foot bouquet of flowers in our front yard. This year, I wrote out her favorite poem, the poem they read at our wedding, with rocks in her heart. It was E.E. Cummings. And there's a little clip. This is the best part. So when you do something crazy, I mean crazy, they put you on TV. I mean, we all know that, right? The South Valley, I mean, go on. They put you on TV for being crazy. They put all of us on TV. The cool thing is if you do something crazy for somebody else, you don't look so crazy.
Look at the detail. Every rock in its perfect place. It's the perfect rock poem for Lonnie's perfect love.
She actually cried before it.
She really loves it.
Sky 7! They like blew over my house. All my neighbors are coming out like, who got shot? Everybody asks me that, like, well, how do you come up with it? It's like, how do you not come up with it?
Lonnie says he doesn't want to be remembered for his career, but rather the appreciation he has for his wife and daughters.
I want to be a guy who loved his family so much that he would do this. He would get on his hands and knees and write an entire E. Cummings poem in rocks.
In the South Valley, Royal Day,
In the South Valley, right? In the South Valley. So that you know what the cool thing is when you do something cool for somebody else, cool things happen. Amazing things happen. I mean, all of my friends, they're either dead or in jail, okay? The ones that are alive, they don't get this. They don't understand that it works exactly the same way when you do bad shit. The more bad shit you do, the more bad shit, it just keeps coming and coming and coming, and pretty soon you can never get out of it. But the great thing is it works exactly the opposite when you do something good. The good stuff starts coming, and so there, I got my wife on the cover of the IQ. I got my wife in the Alibi, and I got my wife on the cover of the newspaper. And again, this is another one of those cool things that happens. Okay, so we're the South Valley, right? We're the worst neighborhood in the world. I say change that. You know how you change that? You do amazing, incredible, beautiful things. And look what I'm right next to. Police, student attacks teacher in Rio Grande, right? I mean, come on, Jesus. But look, I got the whole newspaper. I got right there, Cupid hits a bullseye. What you do. This was another thing that it just came out of it, and I was so happy about it. But right, this is what we hear: South Valley man killed in a drive-by. South Valley man arrested for drugs. South Valley man arrested for domestic abuse.
Tonight, we find a man in the South Valley who surprised his Valentine with a 25-foot display of flowers in their front yard. Ann Boulder Witherspoon says her
not shot, not killed.
Every year, but never anything like this.
What is spectacular is sometimes Lonnie takes little things and gives you a new perspective. So it's nice to see flowers
I think my wife hates it, okay? When it comes down to it, she hates that I put her on TV. But again, I think she does understand that it's bigger than that, you know?
How much I love her.
It's when you create amazing and beautiful things and you bring them into the world, they come on. You know, you get on the news again. I get on the news again.
A lot of men went all out to wow their sweethearts this Valentine's Day.
I know you did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is weird. Isn't that weird?
Lonnie Anderson built
again, you know, I get on the news again.
A carousel, gigantic candies, and turning a living room into a car.
I'm going to personally take back every one of those shitty stories that they put on there about us. For every story that says drugs or killing or bad, I'm going to do this. That's the one thing I'm going to do.
Proof love has no limits or
Most romantic, really, you just have to care about someone.
For Lonnie Anderson, Valentine's Day is an opportunity to show his wife he loves her in a very big way.
And then I put in just different poems.
Remember those small boxes of tiny hearts? Well, this is Lonnie's version. Look at the detail. Even the price tag and barcode are perfect.
He brings sort of like this excitement back into it that is fun.
Anne says she's always amazed at what her husband pulls off. Lonnie once put a carousel in their front yard.
The carousel was just turning really quietly with the music going on a full moon. It was perfect. It was like out of a movie.
Another February, he turned their home into a restaurant. Their daughter, a waitress. And last year, he went all over the South Valley and downtown putting up these signs. Public declarations of his love. Gestures that are homemade and can't be found in a store.
He wants other people to be inspired to do things for themselves and for the people that they love.
So the big question is, what will Lonnie do this year?
I'll just give you a hint. It starts with like a cassette tape. I made a cassette tape for her.
Lonnie couldn't say what his Valentine's Day surprise was because his wife was actually in the room with us, but he promised to tell us tomorrow, and of course we'll let you know. And by the way, the couple has been together now for 15 years. Back to you.
He also put up a huge neon heart one for Central Park.
Oh, wow. He also recreated a huge box of chocolates, except each candy was actually a chocolate cake. That sounds good.
Every second that I get on TV saying great, positive, amazing messages is every second it takes away from those bad stories that you know, they say, well, you know, the only reason we put bad stories on there is because that's the only ones they want to watch. It's our responsibility to change this. We can't just sit back and just not do this, you know, part of it. When I was, the way this all started, when I was a kid, I went to a diner where my grandma was working, and all the young, beautiful waitresses, they were all there, and they all had flowers and candy and all this amazing stuff. And my grandmother, who I love very much, didn't have anything. Not even a card. And my grandpa just didn't believe that, he didn't believe in giving gifts. So they were married for, I think, almost 65 years, and she raised 8 kids. And she never got one thank you. Not one thank you. And I don't remember saying this, but my mom said, when she told me that story, I looked up to her and I said, you know, well, that's not going to happen if I get married. And she just laughed. I don't remember saying that, but that's instilled in your heart. Those little mistakes, as we call them, or those little tragedies, those are what make you do the things that you do. Listen to your heart. Do those things. Quit filling out your resumes in the way that you want other people to you think that they'll do it. Use your tools. Use the things that are important to you. That's it. That's all we have. That's our story. That's what makes us original. That's what makes us just that much different than the next person you're standing next to. I mean, it doesn't cost any money. That's a cardboard box and some orange spray paint. You know, another thing is that if you love somebody, you truly love somebody, and you want to be married to them for the rest of your life, you're gonna have to work a hell of a lot harder than you do at your job. I mean, come on. That's what they should teach you in school as well. You can't read it right there, but it's slow. It says, I love Anne. This is the best part. So this is down on Cesar Chavez and right there at the freeway. I'm standing there, big white guy with a beard. And this lowrider pulls up. And these vatos like come up next to me and they roll down the window and I'm like, I'm gonna get shot, right? And the window goes down, the smoke comes out just like in the movies, I mean, just like in the movies. And I was just like, I tried to put the sign down, looking where I'm going to run. And the guy rolls down the window and he said, pretty cool. He took off. So, that's it. Again, if you ever have to make an important decision in your life, do that. Thank you, guys.